Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show, October 15th edition. We've got some signings to talk about, some injuries to talk about. Giannis Antetokounmpo already planning his retirement. And no, I'm not talking about a 401k. Giannis already planning for what he's going to do when he retired. Lots of things that we're going to get into here on today's show. Make sure you do subscribe to the YouTube channel. Follow us over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts as well. I'm Trevor Lane, joined as always by Keith Smith. Keith, how you doing? And are you ready for Halloween? We got, like 2 weeks now to go till Halloween? So it's a little bit more than that.
Yeah, a little over 2 weeks to Halloween. We've got season starts in less than a week now. So that's the first thing I'm fired up for. But we might have had a little bit of Halloween candy in the house and have a little less Halloween candy. So yeah, we're just working through it. You know, it's you can't get it too early because then you have to rebuy. Like
that's it. That's my problem too. You buy it at this point of the year and you don't have it by Halloween. It just got, especially for me. I don't know what your favorite is, but for me, it's the little Reese's peanut butter cups, like the mini, not the full peanut butter, like the minier, the minier one, the mini one. Yeah, those ones are my kryptonite. They will not survive by Halloween if they are in my household.
Yeah, I like the little white chocolate Reese's Ghosts. Like those are my
the
favorites.
White chocolate ones. Okay.
Yeah. But it's tough. But yeah, we this year Halloween falls on a Friday. Our daughter's off school for the day, so they're gonna do their pumpkin thing. They're already got the pumpkins, already mapping them all out and all that. So we'll definitely share those on social media when the time comes. But yeah, it's gonna be a fun couple weeks.
Exciting stuff. All right, let's get into some NBA news. Lots of stuff going on here. I don't think anything too scary here for Halloween season, but I guess the big news of the day, Russell Westbrook. It actually happened officially, signing with the Sacramento Kings, joining them to give them a little bit more depth at the guard position. And that means, and Keith, I feel like this is very right. Russell Westbrook is in the NBA. He's too good to not be an NBA. Even now at 37, he is too good to not be an NBA player. So very happy to see Russell Westbrook in the NBA to start the season with the Sacramento Kings. We can talk about the fit there and all of that. But we had heard a lot of reporting that the Kings wanted to move a guard before signing Russell Westbrook. Obviously, that didn't happen. Does this tell us that there is still a move coming, or how do you perceive this?
Yeah, and the interesting thing was to go along kind of sort of with this, they did pick up the option year for not this season, but next season for Devin Carter, his rookie scale option. Not a surprise there. It's pretty rare that a third year option gets declined. So the Kings did pick that up. That happened throughout the course of this week. I don't think that changes anything as far as Carter's trade value goes. I don't know that anybody was acquiring him with the idea of them, we can decline that and go, but that is done. So yeah, Russ will be with the Kings. Few people asked, how do the Kings open up a roster spot for this? They have the roster spot. That's not the issue. They're far enough under the tax. That's not the issue either. It was just, they've got an awful lot of guards, but my guess is they were thinking, hey, we want to get him in with at least a handful of days to practice before we open the season. And I think it was Chris Haynes reported that he's going to officially sign on Thursday and will join the team starting on Friday. So then you kind of get everything moving forward from there. That's generally how it works in the NBA is everybody's done with preseason games by Friday. Then a lot of times they'll practice like Saturday, Sunday. Everybody kind of takes Monday off. And then the teams that aren't playing Tuesday get back to it with another practice, and then they go. So he'll at least get a couple of days of practice in. With Russ, we know he's going to be in shape. Not at all worried about any of that stuff. So we'll see. But, I mean, I think this fills a need for Sacramento. It doesn't fill the need for a forward to back up Keegan Murray while he's out.
Right.
Still not sure how that's going to play out. But, yeah, I think Russ in the fold it's fine. I don't think it drastically changes the Kings ceiling or anything, but I think it's a pretty good pickup.
So I do think that it's a good pickup in the sense that the Sacramento Kings need a creator. They need somebody else who can be a creator. Dennis Schroeder, I like the addition there, but he's more of a score first guard. And Russ kind of does teeter on that line between score first and create. Often leans more towards score first, but I think he can create. I think he is probably immediately the best creator on the roster. You do have some guys who can be pretty good secondary creators. When we talk about Zach LaVine, DeMar DeRozan can do it. Actually operates very well out of the pick and roll. DeMar DeRozan does with the ball in his hands. But while I see the need there, I do think there's still too many guys on this Kings team, and I don't think Russell Westbrook changes this, where their default setting is to put the ball in the basket and not necessarily space the floor, defend at a high level, do those sorts of things. So I don't think this changes significantly the outcome of the season for the Kings or what we would project for them. I think he fits a need in a way, but he doesn't contribute in terms of just needing a creator. But I don't think he changes the overall and I think bigger problem for Sacramento, and that's that you've got too many guys whose base setting, whose default is putting the ball in the basket. So the fit is still a little bit wonky, but if you need a creator and you're looking for one right now on October 15th, there's clearly nobody better out there than Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, he is going to come in and fill a need. And now if you do move Malik Monk or things get sideways and then decide, you know what, we're going to move Keon Ellis, at least you have one more ball handler in the mix here and you can feel comfortable throwing him in there. I'm still high on Devin Carter as a prospect after what was really kind of a lost rookie season. But now if you move on from him as well, you have Russ in there. And I think at this point, at the stages of the career for each of them, Russ is a better player than Devin Carter is. Maybe not in 2 more years or so, but right now, this moment, I think he is. So I think they're, but you're right. Like it's a lot of guys who are score first guys who are good passers. But there's also not who's going to be like the spot up guy, who's going to be the guy who spreads the floor for these guys. Monk can do some of that. LaVine can do some of that, but yeah, I mean, primary value for a lot of the Kings players is put the ball in the hoop. One other thing with Russ, a couple people were like, hey, like we all thought this was going to be a minimum deal. It's reported at $3.6 million. That is the minimum deal. The $3.6 million is what he'll actually get paid. Yeah, but because he's 10 plus years of service, which is where the minimum scale maxes out. But his cap tax hit will be $2.3 million, which is what's reflected on the top of the screen here as we wait for the deal to be fully finalized and signed official.
Just like not all max contracts are created equal. There are different levels to the max. It's the same thing with the minimums. There's different levels to it. So people will hear, they hear that over 3 million, go, oh, that's not a minimum. No, that actually is for a guy with over 10 years of service like Russell Westbrook. Great presenting sponsor for the Front Office Show is Sleeper. If you've ever heard of the Sleeper app, here's a little secret. It's more than just a platform for season-long fantasy leagues. This year, millions of users enjoyed playing fantasy sports on Sleeper, but the app offers so much more. Live stats, real-time updates, and visualizations on all stats, plus a news feed. This is so critical for me. Get lightning fast updates on your favorite players and teams, a real-time chat you can engage with other users about individual plays and performances during the NFL and NBA season. So download the #1 sports app today and experience it for yourself. If you can see, I've made a couple of season-long picks there. Some deep cuts. We've got Tyler Warren for the Indianapolis Colts. NFL season is here. I've got him more than 550.5 receiving yards. I think he's going to be a big part of that offense. And then Zach Charbonnet, essentially, I'm saying I don't think that Ken Walker is going to wind up staying healthy all season. I've got him more than 499.5 rushing yards. I think the opportunities will be there for Charbonnet. So click that link in the description down below. Use the promo code CAPSPACE and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out Sleeper today. Okay, let's head over to, and Keith, it's been too many injuries so far this season. And we're not even into the season yet, but Jalen Green will be out for the Phoenix Suns to start the season with a hamstring injury. Hamstrings are tricky. You want to be careful. I think the Suns need to make sure they err on the side of caution there. I'm a little disappointed because I was really curious to see what does Jalen Green and Devin Booker look like in a backcourt. On paper, it's clunky and it shouldn't work, but I'm still intrigued and just want to see how that all plays out. But as I said, hamstring injuries, tricky. Don't want to mess around with it. and they need to get him 100% right before they put him on the floor. So Jalen Green, one of the big pieces they got, along with Dillon Brooks in the Kevin Durant trade, and he will not be available for Phoenix to start the year.
Yeah, new Suns coach Jordan Ott said Jalen Green was starting to feel better and then had a setback, and that's usually an indicator of that's going to be longer, right? It's almost always when there's that setback, it's going to take a little while longer. There was no timeline on this. I looked right before we started recording, and the last thing I could find was them just saying he won't be ready to start the season. So we'll see. Is that a week into the season, a game into the season, a month into the season? I don't think we know. We'll probably get more updates here as things go a little bit further. Then where do the Suns go with this? Is kind of a not even kind of, that's an understatement. This is a roster in transition. They've got a lot of guys who are guards and wings, and then a whole bunch of centers. They don't really have power forwards on the team. Ryan Dunn's gonna probably start there, and then we'll see. They don't have traditional point guards outside of Colin Gillespie and Jordan Goodwin are the closest thing that they have for traditional point guards. The plan seemed to be they were going to play Booker and Green in kind of a combo guard role for both of them. We'll see. Does Grayson Allen start now? Do they go bigger? I think there's a lot of different options here for Jordan Ott, but I think the big thing is who's going to be the consistent scoring threat outside of Devin Booker in this group? Because things tend to get a little sideways when it's Dillon Brooks as the secondary scorer. I don't know that he minds having that role, but I think it is tended to be a little messy. And that's what I'm a little worried about. It's kind of weird to talk about the Suns in that fashion, where for so many years it was like, who's going to play any defense on this team? Now it's like, all right, they've got some defenders, and now it becomes who's going to score besides Devin Booker?
Well, I think when he's healthy, it's got to be Jalen Green, right?
I mean, that's for sure. Yeah, that's what I'm talking
for right now. Yes, yeah. For right now, it's there's not a whole lot there. Although I mean, it just happened last night, but we did see Jared Butler absolutely light up my left. What was I think it was either 35, 36. I don't know. I've repressed it at this point. 35, I believe. He was on fire. He's been good in preseason. Could he potentially be somebody that makes it into the rotation during the regular season? I'm not saying he's going to do that on a night-to-night basis.
Sure.
But he's a veteran in the NBA at this point, been around since 2021, and he sure has looked good.
I've always liked Jared Butler. I think he can really play. I thought Philly should have done more to try to keep him. I get it. They've got a ton of guards there. So that's probably why they were like, man, we're not going to use another roster spot in the limited money we have to spend that way. But I like Jared Butler a lot. He is on an Exhibit 10, so the Suns would have to keep him, which they certainly could do. Phoenix, as of right now, let me pull this up to make sure I say the right thing. They are about 1.5 million into the tax. So you keep Butler, that's going to push you to about 3.8 million into the tax. That's not so far that you can't get out of that with a trade down the line if you really need to. Like that's if worse came to worse, you move Nick Richards and you're already out of the tax if they really needed to. And that's just picking one salary that's close to that number. So yeah, maybe. I tend to think they're probably going to roll with Goodwin and Gillespie and keep a spot open and try to save some tax money to start out with. But we'll see. I also, little interesting, they don't have a point guard in their two-way players. They're three two-way guys. Isaiah Livers is a wing. CJ Huntley's more of a big forward, and then Kobe Bray is very much a shooting wing. So yeah, I thought they might have worked in a two-way guard there that probably would have been like Damian Baugh, who had moments for the Hornets a season ago, but so far they're not there with a two-way point guard.
Well, how close they are to the luxury tax, or how close they are to dropping below the luxury tax is certainly a factor. And we talk about that, why it's worth it for teams to drop below that tax line beyond just paying the tax, also taking part of the tax payments that go out to teams that are not taxpayers. So it really is a big difference for teams. So it does make sense to drop below. But again, 35, 7, and 9 last night. That was a pretty impressive performance from him. We'll see if that's ultimately enough for Jared Butler to earn him a spot and make it worth it. And then if they try to find a way below the tax later on in the season, either way they do, but you just have farther to go if you do keep Butler around. So we'll keep an eye on that decision for the Suns.
If the Suns are that close to the tax around the trade deadline, they will get out of the tax. Nobody stays that close and then doesn't get out. And for them, it's important too, because that can help start the process of resetting the repeater clock, unfreezing their draft pick, all the things that they want to do. That was the big part of waiving and stretching Bradley Beal, was let's really open up all this flexibility. Yes, we need to eat the money for Beal for years to come, but we can really get ourselves in a position where we can start to straighten out our books around that otherwise. And that's why they went that direction. So I think for a guy like Jared Butler, maybe the kind of wink and nod is, hey, go to the G League, play in the G League for your 60 days, collect your Exhibit 10 bonus, and then we'll see, where we go from there and bring you up around, 10-day season starts or sometime in, mid-December, maybe something else will have happened.
All right, let's move on to we have negative injury news here. Let's get to some positive. Joel Embiid back on the floor, may even play in the final preseason game. He did scrimmage in front of fans. This was like an open scrimmage. We saw the Spurs. Sometimes teams do this. The Spurs just did it where they have an inter squad scrimmage, and that's what the Sixers did. So this is the first time Joel Embiid has played in front of fans. I want to say it was since last March.
Yeah, probably around there.
It was either March or April. Well, maybe it was even February. I'll look, but anyway, It was a while ago. It's been a while since Joel Embiid has been on the floor and played. It was good to see him get back out there again, and he could be involved here preseason. Going to be really important for the 76ers that they get him as healthy as he can be and on the court for them if they're going to upend what was a really, really rough season last year. Just buried by an avalanche of injuries last season was the 76ers.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just looked it up. His last game was February 22nd.
Oh, okay.
Of last year. So yeah, missed all of March and then the games in April. So let's stay positive. Looked good too. Looked like he was moving fairly well. Now we've been here before, so I'm not, this is a, fool me once, fool me 100 times. It's that kind of feels like where we're at with this. But for now, Joel Embiid's feeling good. I think the idea of the Sixers even suggesting he could play in a preseason game gives me a really good feeling that, all right, he's probably going to be ready to go for the start of the season. And that's big because there's been no real update on Paul George. Does not necessarily sound like he will be ready. So having Embiid is obviously huge. When he is healthy and playing, he's one of the best players in basketball. We know that. He won an MVP award because he was that good. During the time that one last full or even semi-healthy season he had. Problem has been, it's just those have been so few and far between. So positive for now. It's funny, we're talking about when we do our next episode, we're going to do our predictions for the season. And we did it in our tiers episode. I still don't know what to do with Philly. I'm just going to kind of stick them in the middle of the East because I don't know where. But if you told me, hey, flash forward and Embiid plays 60 games and they're pretty good games, and when he sits, it's because they rested him and minor type stuff, Philly's probably a top 14 in the conference, especially if Paul George plays at all. So, I mean, I'm not fully sure where to put them, but this is good news, at least for a team that's definitely needed some positive injury updates.
There's real talent on this roster. Joel Embiid, Paul George, of course, they're getting up there in years, but we know what they can do when they're healthy. Again, that's a huge question mark. Yeah. But then there's exciting young talent too. Tyrese Maxey, VJ Edgecombe, Jared McCain already dealing with an injury, unfortunately. But there's some interesting players on this team. They brought back Quentin Grimes, so I think it's going to be, with McCain's injury, going to be an even bigger part of the roster than maybe they thought he was going to be back in, say, August or so. But I think this is a team that can be something in the Eastern. Are they a title contender if everybody's healthy? I'm not going to make that leap, but it all hinges upon health. Maybe more so, health is an important factor with every team, but the 76ers, it may matter more than anybody else. Yeah. Just when we saw everything fall apart the way that it did last season. So you're right. They're very hard to predict where they're going to land, because while we want to be optimistic and hope that Embiid and Paul George will stay healthy, we also have a long history of them not. So trying to figure out where to put them is going to be very difficult. But you guys will have to wait to see exactly where we do put them on our prediction episode, which is coming up within the next couple of days.
That's why he's the best, guys. That's a teaser right there.
There it is. There it is. All right.
Back to the
negative. Ace Bailey was so good in the first couple of preseason games, and now dealing with tendonitis in both knees. How old is Ace Bailey? He's got tendonitis in both knees.
Hey, must be my age, because I think I have tendonitis in both knees too.
So how is this possible? But
me and Ace Bailey, we're the same.
There it is. There it is. Terrible though to see him dealing with this already.
Yeah,
man, he was red hot. Those first couple of preseason games looked so good, so smooth out there for the Utah Jazz. But now this knee issue. Hopefully, this isn't anything that's going to linger, and the Jazz can get this taken care of.
Yeah, and the Jazz were really running a lot of stuff for him in those first couple games. Lauri Markkanen didn't play, but they were really in a spot where let's use Bailey a lot. Let's really get him a lot of touches in good spots where he can do his thing. There's if you watch him play, I'm not saying he's going to have these outcomes, but they're very much shades of Kevin Durant, Carmelo Anthony with that kind of killer mid-range, just gets up so high. There's nothing you can do with the shot. Get such good lift on his release. There's no bothering it. And he's, looked really, really good. I will also add, Will Hardy did say, Jazz coach, did nothing serious here. Like they're not concerned about it. It was just, what it was you just pulled it up for those watching along and those not. Trevor just pulled up the game log, played 31 minutes in the preseason opener, then 39 minutes. That's a lot in a preseason game, but played really, really well in those two games, then only got 11 minutes. And that's where the questions started coming from the Salt Lake media, the Jazz beat writers of, hey, why did he come out early? Why did he not come back? And that's when Will Hardy said, he's got a little bit of tendonitis in both knees. But he did say, we're not really concerned. We're just going to watch it. So if we get to opening night next week for the Jazz and Ace Bailey's out there doing his thing for 25, 30 minutes, then, all right, we just kind of put this behind us and move along. But for right now, it's just something we're going to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, you can see, obviously, you don't expect him to shoot over 60% from the field all the time. He did it through the first two games. Then in 11 minutes, he was 1 for 5. But again, didn't play a whole lot in that game. So who knows? Maybe he would have gone on a heater right after he came out of that game. We don't know. Yeah. But the point that you make, though, about a KD, a mellow vibe, again, we don't want to set the bar too high for him and have that be the expectation that he's going to be an all-time great. But there are some similarities when you look at the smoothness of his jump shot, how he gets to his spots on the floor, the ability to get that shot off. And a lot of this is, if you go and you look at the film on him, a lot of it is on jump shots. These points are jump. He did have a couple of really nice takes to the basket where he looked really good, really athletic, very fluid, all of that. But the jumper really is where the majority of his points are coming from. And he looks so comfortable taking it. It really pops off the screen when you're watching him play. So this is a guy to be excited about. And hopefully this ends up being, Keith, this is a footnote that 3 months from now, we don't even remember. You know what I mean? Like he's just playing. He's great. He's tearing it up. And the fact that he dealt with a little bit of a knee thing here in October is a distant memory.
Yeah. And as I went through the scouting process with Ace Bailey too, the things I really liked in his game was a very willing rebounder. He's a willing passer. That Rutgers team was very messy. It was him, Dylan Harper, and a whole bunch of transfers that they looked like they'd met like days before the season. And there was no chemistry there. The team underperformed wildly to what a lot of people thought they were going to be. But the other thing I liked, and this also pops off just this limited game log, he had 6 stocks. So he had a block and 5 steals. Like that's he is a guy who will defend. He will get after it. I think there's a chance he can be a really, really good all-around player with time. Obviously, when we get into the meat of the season, that's where we'll start to really find out. This is a Jazz team that think they're going to give him minutes. I think they're going to give him as much as he can handle. And then we kind of go forward from there. And then it's been nice to see Taylor Hendricks back in the mix and looks good, looks fully recovered, looks, athletic and bouncy again for the Jazz. And then Markkanen, and we haven't seen Kessler unless I don't know if they played last night. I haven't fully caught up, but we hadn't seen him yet. So a lot of pieces and parts there in Utah that are going to be moving around. But Ace Bailey, clearly a very big part of whatever it is they're building in Utah. And this is, to your point, let's hope we never hear this again, and that's it.
Yeah, ideally that'll be the case. But Ace is exciting. Can't wait to see his next game, because he is certainly a guy.
This group is fun, man.
They are
a lot of guys who can play.
And I feel like VJ Edgecombe, I know he's got a lot to his game. I'm excited to see more of him. I know he hasn't really burst onto the scene just yet, but Cooper Flagg, Ace Bailey, Dylan Harper, we got a little bit of a sample of what he can bring. We talked about him the other day. Man, this is an exciting rookie class for sure, and I can't wait to see what these guys are going to do once we get into the season. All right, let's go to Giannis Antetokounmpo. Man, he has a retirement plan all set up. He's got that Roth IRA. He probably doesn't qualify for a Roth IRA. Probably makes a little bit too much. But nonetheless, he does have a retirement plan set. And Keith, it does not involve being in the United States or in the NBA. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, not surprising, right? We see a lot of guys who are from Europe, even some other places other than Europe, but Europe still being where vast majority of foreign-born NBA players come from. They finish their NBA time and they go home, and then they're home. It's no different than an American player who goes to Europe, finishes playing in Europe, and then they retire here at home in the States. Giannis said he threw out some years and stuff, but basically what it works out to is wants to play 5 to 7 more NBA seasons. Then he's going to go play in Greece. He did not put a definitive timeline on how long he would play in Greece, but he wants to finish his career playing in Greece. He was also extremely careful to not say what team or club. And as we've all learned over the years, Greek basketball fans are passionate, to say the least. But
I was wondering what word you were going to go with there. Passionate was a good choice.
But he does want to finish in Greece, and then he said, and then he's gonna live in Greece. And the one line that stood out is, "I do not want to live in the United States." So that is obviously for him, and I'm not gonna read anything into that other than he's from Greece, and that's where he wants to live, and that's where he wants to be. So no issue with that.
And that's Giannis. We're talking 5 more. We're talking about the vast majority of his prime is going to be spent playing in the NBA, and then he'll go and finish his career over there. And that's there's reports that his family is already back there in Athens, and they're living there, and that's their preference, is to live in Greece. And you can't fault him for it. That's where he prefers to live. But it's not like Giannis is leaving tomorrow or anything like that. We still have a lot of NBA basketball for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Then he'll go do, I don't want to say just a retirement tour, because the leagues over there are very, very competitive, and I'm not expecting him to go over there and just kind of kick back and relax. But obviously his prime years, his best basketball will be spent here in the United States, playing in the NBA. Will it be for the Bucks? Well, we'll see. We'll see. Giannis himself says, I could change my mind on that in 6 or 7 months, which happens to line up with the NBA offseason. I don't know. Maybe a little bit of foreshadowing there. Sure. But sounds like he does not want to finish his career in the U.S.
I loved when he was going through all that whole stuff, and he said some version, I'm paraphrasing, of, "I'm done with being finished with my season in April." Like he's like, "I don't like being done in April," which, if you know the NBA calendar, saying I don't like being done either at the end of the regular season or in the first round of the playoffs, because it's right around May is when the second round of the playoffs starts. And he was, I think pretty clear after a couple of years of early outs, he does not want that again. So we'll see. I mean, we'll get to it when we do our prediction show. You'll have to see where we have them, but I think Milwaukee's going to be okay.
Yeah. So Keith, we've got the Bucks since they won the title in 2021, won the whole thing. Since then, they have won, one playoff series.
Yeah.
Since then, they lost in the Eastern Conference semis the next year, and then first round exits each of the last 3 years.
Yep.
I get it. I understand why Giannis is a bit tired of that.
Yeah. I mean, and not putting it on him, but he's been a part of that because he's been injured in some of those playoffs. And that's part of why they've fallen out. Now, part of that, why he's been injured is he's had to carry such a heavy load in the regular season, whether it be Chris Middleton was out and then Damian Lillard was missing time or whatever it may be. But yeah, we'll see. I don't think the Bucks have as much. I don't think they're a title contender with this mix, but I do think this group maybe has more depth to them. I think they've got more guys where you're going to throw. If somebody misses time, it's like, well, that's a real NBA player that you're putting in that guy's place, and I think that's important. It's a little like, all right, cool. Is that more than a first round exit? I don't know.
Yeah, and they may have more depth, and so maybe that puts less. I mean, you were just talking about Giannis getting hurt, and that being part of why the Bucks have had these shortcomings over the last few years. But when I look at this Kings roster or this Bucks roster, yeah, they may have more depth perhaps than a year. We'll have to see how it all plays out. But Giannis is also going to have a very heavy creator role. And that was not ideal. When they had Damian Lillard, it was, well, Dame's going to do a lot of the creating. Now they don't have him. And obviously they wouldn't have him even if he was still, on their roster. But do you think that just the fact that he's going to have to be such a heavy usage creator for this team, think that has the potential to wear him down as well?
Yeah. I think that's a big part of why we've seen they're giving Kevin Porter Jr. fairly big role on this team. And I think the idea is he's another guy who can create offense. And I think he was pretty good for them at the end of last year. Doc Rivers got some trust in Kevin Porter Jr. and said, all right, let's get him out there because they don't think they want Giannis having to do everything. Because their next best creator after those two, probably Cole Anthony, then Ryan Rollins, then probably Kyle Kuzma. So you're like already into like, all right, that's not great. Like there's just not a lot of playmaking. In an NBA that is increasingly making sure teams have 2, 3, sometimes even 4 guys who can create and put the ball on the floor. Like I imagine this Bucks team when they play the Pacers and the Pacers unleash that full court, not really a full court press, but just full court ball pressure on them. They may have a hard time just even getting the ball up the floor. Like, and that's a challenge. And I know people are like, big deal. So what? Giannis has to dribble it up too. That takes a toll when you can't just give it to him in the middle of a half court set and then go when he's got to use 22 of the 24 seconds to get them into whatever shot they're going to get, inclusive of getting the ball up the floor. That's tough. And that can really wear a guy down.
By the way, Milwaukee does play the Pacers early in the season here, November 3rd. They take each other. I do think that's a good call out there in terms of a team that could really make it difficult on the Bucks to get into their offense just with their pressure on the ball. It was certainly OKC in the Western Conference has the ability to do that, but the Pacers have done a really nice job. It's been noticeable in preseason how tenacious they've been on the perimeter defending. So that'll be certainly something to keep an eye on with this Bucks team, and Giannis, his ability to carry that burden. Like you said, some other guys can step up, but I do look at the Bucks in addition to kind of the no-brainer being the Houston Rockets. Now that the Sacramento Kings have Russell Westbrook, I think the Rockets, because of the injury to Fred VanVleet, but also the Bucks, are the two teams that we should most be keeping an eye on in terms of finding a true lead ball handler guard, whether that be on the free agent market, somebody pops in the G League, or perhaps when we get into trade season on the trade front.
Yeah, and that's the key. When we get into trade season, there's a lot of contracts they'll be able to stack up and put together to go try to make something happen. So that's where I think they'll be in a position if they are in a spot where, all right, ball handler X became available. I don't know who that'll be, but that guy's out there. They'll be in position to make an offer and try to go get somebody. And even Kyle Kuzma, $22 million. I'm not the biggest Kyle Kuzma fan in the world, and I think his time in Washington really didn't do him any favors. Hopefully he can get back to being a better player on a more serious team. But $22 million, $20 million next year those are numbers that are pretty movable. Teams aren't going to balk too much at that, especially if you're like, all right, we're really getting him as more of a path towards getting something else. The one problem the Bucks have is they don't have a lot of tradable picks. They're still out draft picks from the other moves they've made to try to get, Giannis help around him. So it's probably going to be lower end targets, but we'll see, where it all comes together.
Right. All right, let's move on here. Kristaps Porzingis wants to see how the year goes before talking new deal with the Atlanta Hawks. He is extension eligible with the Hawks, but sounds like he wants to see. Is that just where KP is at this point? Where he's got enough years in the NBA. He's not that worried about what his next contract's going to look like. And so he's not going to be in any rush to do a new deal here. He wants to see how the season goes, figure out if this is really where he really wants to be, especially in his age 30 season. And then he'll pick his head up at the end of the year and kind of take a look around and see what's the best fit. Maybe it is the Hawks, but he's going to want to make sure if he's going to commit long-term to someplace that it's going to be indeed a good fit for him for the future.
Yeah, I think and he said too, like, I'm feeling healthy again. I want to see how the season goes for me. And I think that's part of it. I think it is also, what's my role even going to be? We still don't know. Is he going to start? Is he going to come off the bench? What's going to happen here in Atlanta? I tend to think he probably starts. It seems to be the way they're going. They're running some kind of funky stuff too, where it's not all Trae Young initiated. They had a couple plays in their preseason game the other night where it was Jalen Johnson and Kristaps Porzingis ran the initial action. One of them resulted in Trae Young hitting like a 35-foot three-pointer, but it came off of a Johnson Porzingis play. And those are the kind of things that could really put Trae Young in a better place, where he could even be a more efficient scorer as opposed to just a volume guy because he has this help. But I think for Porzingis, it's probably a matter of, all right, how good is the team? What's my role? What are they offering me money-wise too, right? Sure. That's a pretty big factor here. And then we kind of see where it goes. Because I think as much as he has talked about, like, hey, I'm very happy to be in Atlanta and all that, we know it caught him off guard being traded from Boston a little bit. Maybe it shouldn't have. I think after Jason Tatum got hurt, we all knew where that was going. But I think for him, it's like, all right, I'm not locking in, here long-term, because last time I did that, I got traded, a couple of years later. So I think he just wants to be a little bit cautious with this at this point in his career.
And to be fair, I don't know if the Hawks, for their part, are they ready to sign up long-term for Porzingis? Sure. We don't know. They're going to see how this looks and then go from there. I'm sure
if Porzingis was like $10 million a year, they'd be like, done. Yeah. But if it's, I want 30, they're probably like, I don't know. Like now we got to re-sign Dyson Daniels. Trae Young's due for a new contract.
Trae Young is extension eligible. He could be a free agent next summer.
Yeah, next summer. Yep. He could be the free agent next summer too. Yeah. I've already did just the nature of what I do. I have to start prepping some of that stuff. And I was already going through and I'm like, if Kevin Durant, comes off the board as expected, it's probably Trae Young, or because I don't know what to make of LeBron as a free agent, right? Like I'm not sure how to even process that, because it's been a long time since he's been one without kind of knowing what was happening. So it just we'll take him and we'll put him over here all by himself.
He's in his own category.
Yeah, and then Trae Young is like, of the next guys, he could be the best free agent available.
All right, let's go here. Sign-and-waive season upon us. Keith, why are so many players getting signed and waived? Are they that upsetting? They must walk in and immediately offend their coach or something like that to immediately get waived, right? Is that what's happening?
Yeah, that's exactly it. They walk in, they start punching guys in the nose, and then that's it. And then they're waived immediately. No, this is somebody said, hey, you guys are going to do a show where you go over all of them? And I was like, that would be for like me and 7 other people. Like no one even wants that unless I wanted to test Trevor with fake names. But
that would
it is, this is really it's the process. This is how teams line guys up for the G League. It's funny. Someone replied to me, I think it was on Blue Sky, saying, I feel really bad, even though I know the teams need to do this, that these guys are just getting cut. And I was like, yes, but Not really, because in a lot of cases, they're getting cut with a setup to make a good chunk of money. A lot of these guys are going to make tens of thousands of dollars. Sometimes, 85,300 is the max on an Exhibit 10 if they go to the G League and spend 2 months in the G League. So we're in a spot where I think what folks are missing sometimes is they signed this guy yesterday. Why did they waive him? And it's part of the process. You have to, in order to give them the Exhibit 10 bonus, you have to sign them to an Exhibit 10 contract. Now, I wish we could just say, hey, I'm giving the guy the money. Selfishly, that's like hundreds of transactions I would not have to process every year, but it is what it is. It's the way the process works. We did have a couple. The Nets signed a couple guys and gave them small, actual partial guarantees. That's to help aid them in making sure they hit the salary floor, because they do not want to be under the salary floor when the season starts.
And if you're one of those guys, you're like, cool, I'll take that.
Yeah, I'll take it. Right? Yeah, absolutely. And
that's
one of the guys, somebody said, why wouldn't he do an Exhibit 10? Well, there's no guarantee you're going to get more on an Exhibit 10 than you would have from this partial guarantee. And with this, he, depending on what his payment schedule was set up, might have got it all right now, because sometimes that's how this goes with these partial guarantees. So, but that's what's happening here. None of this it's not a negative thing. It's just they're bringing guys in, and sometimes it's guy signs today, he's waived later today, and new guy comes in. This will all wrap up really for the day, Friday into Saturday. Teams will almost all set their rosters for opening night as far as waiving players by Saturday. Because if you're not waived by Saturday afternoon, 5 p.m. Eastern, you then will count for a per day roster charge, because the player won't have cleared waivers by Monday's deadline to set your roster. So that's why Saturday will be a big day to watch. You're going to see a whole bunch of these, but literally there'll be I know it sounds weird because these are not the glamorous. We're not going to go live for any of these type transactions, but this is easily the busiest transaction week in the NBA. It's not even close, because there's probably at least 100 more of these types of deals to come over the course of the next several days, and it'll all wrap up pretty much by Saturday. The only times teams won't do it by Saturday, like Washington is in a position right now where they have to waive at least one fully guaranteed contract. If it's fully guaranteed, you might as well take your time, and you could do it on Monday. So that's sometimes why you see that happening with this. I do want to call one waiver out, just a little interesting. Dariq Whitehead of the Nets, former first-round pick, got waived, only 2 years in the league. They waived him before his option year would have been picked up. His next option year would have had to have been picked up. Kind of an interesting guy. If it happens, he'll clear waivers today. We're recording this on Wednesday, would be the day he clears waivers. But somebody may take a flyer on him. Is just, hey, let's see what it looks like. Maybe we can get him healthy, get him back on track. There was a point where Dariq Whitehead was the number one player in his class in college. And some were like, if this Wembanyama kid doesn't fully pan out, maybe Dariq Whitehead could be the number 2 pick in the draft. So that's how highly thought of he was just a few years ago.
Right. And so I think somebody will, because of that, somebody will take a flyer on it. So he'll wind up on a 2-way contract somewhere or something like that, just for somebody to bring him in. Now, you mentioned a lot of these waivers that are coming. We've got 9 games on Friday.
Yeah.
9 games. That's 18 teams that are in action on Friday. So what that means, because most teams will want these guys to be available for their final preseason game, just in case they get an opportunity to throw them out there on the floor. So what typically happens is a team finishes their game, and then a short time later, you get an announcement. X player was waived by, and so we'll get a lot of those. It'll be rapid fire because you've got so many teams in action on Friday, which is the final day before the regular season starts up on Tuesday. So just be prepared. Keith, I don't envy you. There's going to be the tidal wave of all of these moves that are coming either late Friday evening as games end or first thing Saturday morning.
Yeah, it's funny because I complained about it, but I really don't mind. It gives me a chance to play my spreadsheets even more. And then I get to start building out the G League rosters and figuring out, all right, who are the guys we really need to watch in the G League as that gets started and putting all that together. So I'm complaining, but this is one where it's like, hey, more reason to play around on roster spreadsheets. Let's go. I'm certainly not gonna be a grump about that.
You say play in your spreadsheets like it's a kid that gets access to a sandbox or something
Kinda
like that.
is.
You're like, oh yay, I get to crunch numbers.
Yeah, I really like update. I like there's a world where I could have been perfectly content with like a data entry in like quality assurance job. I don't mind doing that stuff. It's just, Dunder Mifflin already had Creed and they didn't need anybody else. So
they didn't uh, Creed didn't necessarily do the best job though. You do a much better job than Creed.
I hope. I hope there's no offensive watermarks getting put out on the prom flyers here.
Then he got someone else fired for it.
Yes,
Debbie Brown. Yeah,
Debbie Brown.
Yeah, if she had only caught it. Yep. Oh man,
she wasn't there that day.
Who was not there? Oh, Creed. All right, everybody. We appreciate all of you for joining the show. Again, make sure you do subscribe to the channel over on YouTube, over on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. The NBA season.
Thanks for everybody who reached out about the news we shared on our last show. We get a lot of great comments on YouTube, ton of people on social media, a bunch of text messages and emails from people. So thank you so much for everyone who reached out. We can't thank you guys enough for
we appreciate all of you. Heard so many well wishes and things of that nature. So again, very much appreciative of all of you, and we're very excited moving forward with all of this. All right, everybody. Till next time. See ya and stay safe.